What if I told you that every single time you look at something, you're literally changing reality at the quantum level? What if your consciousness isn't just observing the world, but actually creating it moment by moment? This isn't some new age fantasy. This is quantum physics. And today, we're diving deep into the most mind-bending intersection of science and manifestation that will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about reality. You see, there's this experiment called the double slit experiment that has been driving physicists absolutely insane for over a century. And what it reveals about the nature of reality and your role as the observer is so profound that it might just be the missing piece in your manifestation practice. But here's where it gets really wild. When scientists shoot electrons through two slits, something impossible happens. The electrons behave like waves, creating an interference pattern on the screen behind them. This means each electron is somehow going through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself. But the moment, and I mean the exact moment, a conscious observer decides to measure which slit the electron goes through, everything changes. The wave function collapses. The electron suddenly behaves like a particle and goes through just one slit. Think about what this means. The act of conscious observation literally changes the behavior of matter at the most fundamental level. Your awareness doesn't just passively observe reality, it actively participates in creating it. This isn't metaphysics. This is hardcore physics that has been replicated thousands of times in laboratories around the world. Now, most people hear about quantum physics and manifestation, and they immediately think it's some kind of pseudo-scientific nonsense. But what if the connection is far more direct than anyone imagined? What if consciousness itself is the bridge between the quantum realm and our everyday reality? Let me paint you a picture. Every single moment of your life, you're making countless observations. You're collapsing wave functions left and right without even realizing it. Every time you focus your attention on something, every time you hold an intention, every time you visualize an outcome, you're potentially influencing the quantum field that underlies all of reality. But here's what nobody talks about. Most people are unconscious observers. They're collapsing wave functions randomly, chaotically, without any intentional direction. They're manifesting by accident, creating their reality through unconscious observation and expectation. And then they wonder why their life feels out of control, why their manifestations aren't working, why they keep attracting the same patterns over and over again. The quantum field doesn't care whether your observation is conscious or unconscious. It responds to the fact that you're observing, period. So if you're unconsciously expecting failure, unconsciously observing lack, unconsciously focusing on what you don't want, guess what you're manifesting? Exactly what you don't want. This is where quantum manifestation becomes absolutely revolutionary. When you become a conscious observer, when you start directing your observation intentionally, you begin to participate actively in the creation of your reality rather than just stumbling through it blindly. But let's get even more specific about how this works. In quantum mechanics, there's this concept called superposition. Before observation, quantum particles exist in all possible states simultaneously. It's only when they're observed that they collapse into one specific state. Now, apply this to your life. Before you focus your consciousness on a particular outcome, all possibilities exist simultaneously in the quantum field. Your focused observation, your conscious intention, your sustained attention on a desired outcome is what collapses the wave function in favor of that particular reality. This is why visualization works. This is why focused intention works. This is why meditation and mindfulness practices are so powerful for manifestation. You're literally training yourself to become a more conscious, more intentional observer. You're learning to direct your quantum observations rather than letting them happen randomly. But here's the part that will blow your mind. Recent experiments have shown that the observer effect isn't limited to individual particles. It can influence entire systems. There's something called quantum entanglement, where particles become so connected that observing one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. And it suggests that consciousness might be able to influence reality non-locally, beyond the constraints of space and time. What if your consciousness isn't confined to your brain? What if it's a field that extends beyond your physical body and can influence the quantum structure of reality around you? This isn't just theoretical anymore. There are experiments showing that human consciousness can influence random number generators, that focused intention can affect the behavior of quantum systems, that meditation can alter the quantum field in measurable ways. Now, I know what you're thinking. If this is all true, why isn't everyone manifesting everything they want effortlessly? Why isn't the world full of conscious creators living their dream lives? The answer lies in understanding the difference between casual observation and conscious observation. Most people are what I call quantum zombies. They're observing reality constantly, but they're doing it unconsciously, habitually, automatically. They wake up expecting the same day as yesterday. They look for evidence of their limitations. They observe their problems with far more intensity and focus than they observe their desires. They're powerful quantum observers, but they're using their power unconsciously to recreate the same patterns over and over again. Conscious observation is completely different. It requires you to become aware of what you're observing, how you're observing it, and why. It means taking responsibility for the reality you're creating through your observation. It means recognizing that every moment of focused attention is an act of creation. Every sustained thought is a quantum measurement. Every visualization is a wave function collapse. But here's where it gets really practical. To become a quantum manifester, you need to understand the mechanics of conscious observation. First, you need to become aware of your default observation patterns. What do you naturally focus on? What thoughts run automatically in the background of your mind? What expectations do you hold without even realizing it? Most people have trained themselves to be expert observers of what they don't want. They notice every problem, every limitation, every obstacle with laser-like focus. They rehearse worst-case scenarios in their minds. They expect disappointment and look for evidence to confirm it. And the quantum field responds perfectly to this observation pattern by delivering exactly what they're focusing on. The second step is learning to redirect your observation consciously. This isn't just positive thinking, this is quantum mechanics. When you hold a clear intention and observe it consistently, you're influencing the probability waves in the quantum field. You're increasing the likelihood that the wave function will collapse in favor of your desired outcome. But consistency is crucial here. Remember, the quantum field responds to observation, and your unconscious mind is observing 24 hours a day. If you spend 5 minutes visualizing your dream life and then 23 hours and 55 minutes observing and expecting your current limitations, guess which observation pattern is going to dominate the quantum collapse? This is why successful manifestation requires what I call quantum coherence. Your conscious observations and your unconscious expectations need to be aligned. Your daytime visualizations and your nighttime worries need to be pointing in the same direction. You need to become so consistent in your conscious observation that it overwrites your unconscious patterns. There's also something called the quantum Zeno effect, where frequent observation can actually freeze a quantum system in its current state. This explains why people get stuck in repetitive patterns. If you're constantly checking whether your manifestation is working, constantly looking for evidence that it's not happening fast enough, you might actually be freezing the quantum system and preventing change from occurring. The key is to observe with detachment. Hold your intention clearly, visualize your desired outcome vividly, but then release the need to control how and when it manifests. This is what quantum physicists call delayed measurement. You set up the experiment, but you don't keep checking the results. You allow the quantum field to work without interference. Now, let's talk about quantum entanglement in manifestation. If consciousness can create entangled states with the quantum field, then your sustained focus on a desired outcome creates a kind of quantum connection between your current reality and your desired reality. The more you strengthen this connection through consistent observation and intention, the more likely it becomes that your current reality will shift toward alignment with your desired reality. This is why gratitude is so powerful in manifestation. When you feel genuine gratitude for something you haven't yet manifested in physical reality, you're creating a quantum entanglement between yourself and that desired outcome. You're observing it as already real at the quantum level, even if it hasn't yet collapsed into physical manifestation. But here's something most people miss. The quantum field doesn't distinguish between what you call real and what you call imaginary. To the quantum field, a vividly imagined experience creates the same wave function collapse as a physically experienced one. This is why visualization works. This is why athletes who mentally rehearse their performance show actual improvement in their physical skills. This is why people who visualize healing can sometimes trigger real biological changes in their bodies. Your imagination isn't separate from reality. It's a quantum observation tool. When you imagine something clearly and consistently, you're observing it at the quantum level. And observation at the quantum level influences probability at the physical level. This brings us to one of the most profound implications of quantum manifestation. If consciousness is fundamental to quantum mechanics, and if quantum mechanics underlies all of physical reality, then consciousness might be more fundamental than matter itself. You're not just a physical being having spiritual experiences. You're a quantum consciousness using physical reality as a playground for creation and exploration. Every time you make a conscious choice about what to focus on, you're exercising your power as a quantum creator. Every time you direct your attention intentionally, you're participating in the fundamental process by which reality emerges from the quantum field of possibilities. But with this power comes responsibility. If you're constantly creating your reality through quantum observation, then you can no longer play the victim to circumstances. You can't blame external conditions for your life experience. You have to own the fact that your consciousness, whether conscious or unconscious, is constantly influencing the quantum field and contributing to the reality you experience. This doesn't mean you're responsible for everything that happens to you. There are collective quantum observations, inherited patterns, and complex interactions that influence reality beyond your individual consciousness. But it does mean that you have far more power to influence your experience than most people realize. So how do you become a master of quantum manifestation? First, develop quantum awareness. Start noticing what you're observing throughout the day. Become conscious of your unconscious observation patterns. Notice where your attention naturally goes and how that relates to what shows up in your life. Second, practice quantum intention. Instead of just wanting things, learn to hold clear intentions while remaining detached from specific outcomes. Set up your quantum experiments, but don't keep interfering with the results. Third, cultivate quantum coherence. Align your conscious intentions with your unconscious expectations. Use techniques like meditation, hypnosis, and repetitive visualization to reprogram your unconscious observation patterns. Fourth, embrace quantum timing. The quantum field operates outside of linear time. Your manifestations might show up instantly, or they might take months or years to fully materialize. Trust the quantum process and maintain consistent observation regardless of timing. Finally, remember that you're not just manifesting objects and experiences. You're manifesting yourself. Every quantum observation is changing you at the most fundamental level. Every conscious intention is evolving your consciousness. You're literally creating yourself through the act of conscious observation. The double slit experiment shows us that reality is far more malleable and consciousness dependent than we ever imagined. You're not just living in reality. You're constantly creating reality through the quantum power of conscious observation. The question isn't whether you're manifesting. You're always manifesting. The question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, intentionally or accidentally, powerfully or weakly. You are the observer, and the observer changes everything. What reality will you collapse into existence today?